So this is round 3 of the 30th Singapore Open, playing against Fool or Clever. I think he's actually quite a promising young China player, as I understand. So this should be a good game. Playing with perpendicular opening right now. I'm just watching what opening he plays. So he's gone to Stephenson. So let's go ahead with Commonwealth opening. Just jumping into the center, likewise to cross back into the center. So this is still a relatively common Stephenson opening to Commonwealth. So let's just go with just a quiet move on a diagonal cut. So just jump in for a quiet move. And he's played to that. I'll just take basically C1, which is a diagonal cut across first. So just jump into the center, flipping 3 discs in one direction, but the 3 discs are basically still nestled within the disc. Just going into the center over here. This is actually still essentially a book line, so I believe he's fairly familiar considering the speed that he's actually playing the moves. So I'll jump in over here to the center. This is still within a book line, but fairly understandable because it's 2 discs in one direction and centralizing. So just regroup the discs that are split up with D7 over here. So he's jumped in. So I'll go with actually a quiet move, just one disc flip to G4 over here, and see what happens. Okay, so he's played down to F7. So the next good move for him would actually be G6 potentially over here. And alternatively, I would actually have a quite an easy quiet move over here to G3. So it's more like exchanging moves at the moment. So there isn't any easy way for me to actually prevent this move from happening. So prevention doesn't work. Poisoning probably not applicable here. There's no way to make this less attractive. So taking the move itself seems to be too much, flipping too many discs. So of course the fourth approach would then be to actually work around it or just simply ignore it. So over here, there is a concern if I were to play G3, black would go into G6 perhaps and still have access to the top. So instead of doing that, I could also consider just going down the line vertically. But this could be potentially removed by this move, and he basically controls this line as well. So I think just looking at it this way, I would imagine that I want to have some disc along this vertical line on the E column. So I guess let's go with G3 to just establish this E5 disk. Try to retain some excess down this E column. And at the same time, I still have that option to actually play D1 in the future. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just anticipating that he's just going to jump into G6, which is a very simple and easy quiet move for him. And then I could probably follow with potential D1, which could open up a quiet move for him at the back end of it, which is D8. So he's gone for c8, which basically means that he probably wants to go for the bottom, and he doesn't feel like g6 is a rush at the moment. So right now there is an option to actually take g8, or actually to respond to this diagonal cut. If I were to respond here, he might potentially go for f8, which begs the response to e8, followed by him taking c7, which is quite a standard mid-game variation. And if I were to ignore this, the best moves you could play around here at the moment probably seems like either d8 or f8, which would form a pair. If you were to take f8, you will remove this disk that gives me access to d1. So at this point in time, I actually want to retain that. Probably want to take d1 while I still can, instead of just wait for him to actually remove this success. So just go ahead with d1 here. Hopefully that works out. So the reason why I didn't have to think about responding to g6 earlier was probably because even if he took g6, I could still go for a simple cut move down the horizontal fifth row to h5. So he's gone and played b1. So the strength of Com Auth or Stephenson opening for black is actually this double, uh, probably double edge control to the left and to the top for this particular orientation. So we probably wouldn't want him to actually take one more move to e2. So I'm just going to jump into e2 and just protect this particular disk at d2, because he probably wouldn't take f2 and just sweep the entire row. That would actually reduce too many of his moves. Okay, so he's gone for g6, which is the easy quiet move for him. So right now the concern is that he plays the bottom to actually form a pair, perhaps. I could also play to h5, which is the horizontal cut we mentioned earlier. Another option would be to feed him the unbalanced edge to the left, but this usually happens after black at least takes probably one more move to the top. So that's the problem with h5 is that he might respond to d8, which basically no, yeah. Let's go ahead with a h5 cut to the edge. So h5 in essence also somewhat protects the e2 disk. So over here, a quick and easy move would just simply to capture h6. One of the considerations here was probably whether he could play a diagonal control down to g7. So this can actually be crossed back by playing maybe something more extreme like b6 to cut back this particular disc to d4 to create that access back to the corner. So he's done the diagonal control, just jumping in. So we'll go for the, since he played quite an aggressive g7, we could probably also respond with an aggressive g6 to just cut into the excess for the d4 disc we mentioned earlier. So he's taken a2, which is quite aggressive. Only if you're very confident in actually maintaining the edge play access, you would actually form that particular shape. So let's just go ahead and just grab the corner at this point in time. See what happens from here. So he basically has a quiet move down to a5 as a result of that move. So it does seem a bit risky considering he can play a6 and a7. Two consecutive moves for him. But let's try to defend this line over here, which he doesn't really have probably an easy way to gain access. Maybe he could just jump into c7 and just create that access. But let's just go from the corner, from right to left, just creeping along the edges. And right now he doesn't have any access along the F column, so that's probably somewhat of a relief for me in terms of at least one move. So right now it is somewhat of a tug of war now. So the dangerous thing about Commonwealth is the top left shape, as mentioned. So the danger of playing right now into f8 is that black would just play c7 and remove this disc. I wouldn't have a continuation move to e8, and instead I'll probably have to just feed all the way to the right. So let's just go with this sequence and see how that plays out. It does seem a bit risky, but hopefully I can gain back the disc to the left as it plays out to the right. So It's probably going to jump into c7 at this point in time to create access, yep, over here. So my strategy would then to be just to feed all the way in terms of parity. This is a 7 disc region, and these two hopefully are somewhat coupled together with this region. So white, black, white, followed by black, white, white, and then if black were to play here, I would play here down to b8, and he goes in, and then I can just feed the corner and grab the last 3 moves perhaps. Not too sure if that would actually work out, but that's probably my only choice at this point in time. So yeah, as expected, we'll just jump in and just feed that right edge across and just go straight for parity. Hopefully I can force 1 or 2 more moves over here, and hopefully I can still have this disc to actually get access down here. Not too sure whether that will be enough. It does feel a little bit too few discs at this point in time. I didn't really count the line, but it's probably the most natural progression of the game. So let's see how that goes. So now there seems to be lesser pressure for me to count, but rather for him to count, since the sequence is somewhat more or less determined for me. So over here, I'll just play the b8 and just wait for his moves to play out. Hopefully you can squeeze a win here with parity. Not exactly too sure whether it'll be enough. So right now there is a danger. Black has actually played quite an excellent move here. If I were to follow white and black plays here, he removes my access over here. White. So let's just go ahead with grabbing the corner to A8. Black is probably going to play H. Yep, exactly. He removes this particular disc at F2. So that's a very good move for black. So I will go ahead to play B2 to just secure back that access for A7 here, since I've lost the access and playing this. If I were to play right now H3 and black follows. Okay. So 26 minus 9. 26 minus 9 would actually be 17. 17 followed by plus 6, 23, plus 2, 25, minus 1, 24, plus 7. I would lose by 33, 31 that way. If I were to go down this line, so let's go ahead with B2, which momentarily controls this lead diagonal over here in exchange for moves to try to gain access to, which is basically trying to gain access by capturing the d4 disc to gain access to A7. So this end game is actually a bit more complex in a sense that we are chasing access. So now black has quite a few options to actually count. It almost seems a little bit simple for white to actually end the game just by parity and just pray for the best. So white's only respawn over here, followed by black and white. Yep. So good game for clever. Basically a loss for me, 31 to 33. Quite an interesting end game that he's come up with.